Hey, core reporters, listen, we've got to talk about all of the drama surrounding Catelynn and Tyler. They've been speaking out against their daughter Carly's adoptive parents, Brandon and Teresa, refusing to allow them to visit her. And I've been meaning to cover this story, but the weekend came and it was just such a beautiful, busy weekend. I went to the park with my friends for a picnic. It was glorious. I watched Titanic for the first time as well, and that was a good movie. I was like, oh, now I see why people talk about this all the time. It's a good ass movie. And just like some other stuff. It was a really, really good weekend and I wanted to enjoy it. So here we are post-weekend to talk about what went down. So shout out to Reddit for the screenshot. It all started with this Instagram story that Catelynn made talking about what's been going on with their adoption. So here we go. Adoption is wild. Being at the mercy of someone that can say no. I know I chose this, no need to tell me. I just will never understand how you say that you love us and will always be blessed for us, but you can't take 2 days out of your entire year to just meet up for dinner and do a park or something small, especially when we said we would travel to y'all. I know for me, the people I love and are blessed to have, I make time for. So now we most likely won't see her until she's 16, and who knows if that will even happen. Sorry I had to vent because I just can't wrap my head around the fact that you love and care about us but refuse to make time. Listen, Catelynn is very brokenhearted. Like we've all seen the way that this adoption situation has been very difficult for her. She and Tyler were teenagers. They were like 16 years old when their daughter CARLY was adopted, and it feels as though they did not understand the terms of the adoption. When you go back and watch 16 and Pregnant or the early days of Teen Mom, you see these people talk like Brandon and Teresa are babysitters for their daughter. Like, oh, we're going to be seeing her all the time. Like, we're going to be besties, blah, blah, blah. But like they truly didn't understand the boundaries in place and the power that Brandon and Teresa had. And so I feel like, you know, and I've seen some of the comments about like her post, like, yeah, like it is a little bit harsh, but at the same time, like, I feel like they were kind of like exploited a little bit or led astray by this agency. Like we saw them speaking as if this was a babysitting situation, as if they had like, you know, a revolving open door policy just because it was an open adoption. And they would say things like this to Dawn, the adoption counselor, and Dawn wouldn't really correct them as much as she could have. And she didn't do a great job of letting this sink in, like, hey, like, you are at their mercy. They very well could close the door on you for literally any reason, even if it's no reason at all, just so you know, like, are you sure? And so, you know, it's just sad to see the kind of trauma that like has been placed on them by people who were supposed to kind of like protect and help and guide them. And it sucks that they didn't have like parents, right, to help walk them through this as well. Instead, their parents were just like their number one enemies through all of this, you know, even though they were the reason that these two could not keep their daughter, right? Like they needed a village, and unfortunately their village was littered with meth pipes. Do meth people use crack pipes, or is that crack pipes, you know, and heroin needles? Like they just did not have what they needed when it came to their parents. Like they had nothing, and I find that to be really, really sad. So I do empathize with them in that respect. It sucks, you know. Yeah, like now they're in their 30s, but still they're suffering the consequences of decisions that they made when they were teenagers, right? And like they were in a place where your only choice was to give birth, even if you weren't ready, even if you didn't have the means, you know, like it was just like a forced choice on these people. It feels like not necessarily statewide or whatever, but in terms of like the society that they grew up in. It seems like they were very religious or whatever. So it felt like that was something that like pushed them to do something that like, you know, like it sucks, you know, it really sucks. Not that I'm saying that they should have had an abortion or anything like that, but it's just that like they really didn't have any choice. It was give birth and give this baby up for adoption, or give birth and have this baby grow up in literal hell the way that they grew up in hell, you know, like there really wasn't anything else for them. And I find that to be very sad. So Tyler decided to hop on their joint Facebook fan page in order to back up his wife. So let's take a look at what it is that he had to say. Quote, I debated on whether or not I would address the post my wife made about not getting a visit with CARLY. However, after seeing the comments, opinions, and theories about why this decision has been made, I felt compelled to address it. CARLY is almost 15 years old. Throughout those 15 years, her parents have chosen not to have our mutually agreed upon annual visit multiple times. This is nothing new or foreign to our story, and there is nothing we have done in our personal lives that has influenced this decision. Now, is it always disappointing and hurtful when it happens? Yes, of course. Is it sad? Yeah. But at the end of the day, Brandon and Teresa are her parents. They are the only ones who have the authority to make these decisions. We can waste our time asking questions, dissecting responses, and begging for an answer, but we are not entitled to it, regardless of how much we may believe/wish otherwise. All we can do is accept the decision without the requirement of an answer. We have to just trust that their decision is for the best interest of CARLY, because that is the honor, privilege, and gift we chose to give them when we decided that they would raise her and be her parents. But that choice does not come without a natural human cost. Most will never know the pain of what it takes to fight against the most powerful, biological, and instinctual nature that's required to make that choice. Most will never know what it's like to grow, nurture, love, and carry such a beautiful, perfect innocence like your own baby, only to painfully relinquish that natural bond to another to do what you know you can't for the sake of your baby. It's a pain that's equal to death, and I don't wish it upon my worst enemy. Oh my God, you guys, like that is so heartbreaking. It really, really is. At least with death, there's a tragic finality to it. Tragic, yes, but it's final. There's no guessing, there's no false hope, and there's nothing you can do to bring them back or change it. But grieving your child while they still live is truly an unexplainable pain in so many ways I won't even attempt to put into words. So with that pain, inevitably comes emotional reactions and expressions. My wife fights this pain every day. Some days are a victory and some days are not. But her expressing that pain on those particular days when she is vulnerable, sad, and at a loss should not be used as an attack against her character. Or maybe I'm just biased since she's my wife who I love more than anything, but I have held her while this excruciating pain overtakes everything. So all I ask of you is just to please be kind, be gentle and compassionate towards her situation if you can find it in your hearts to do so. I know the assumptions, criticisms, and judgments are part of the territory when it comes to living your life in the spotlight, but we're still human beings at the end of the day. This whole thing is hard for everyone involved. We're only human after all, and I believe we could all use some more grace and understanding towards one another. Tyler, you freaking slayed that. Listen, Catelynn's post was made in like passion and anger. Like it feels like she made this immediately after like she was rejected for another annual visit, right? And she was just so pissed. She took to her Instagram, girl, you need a Finsta, by the way. You guys, if you're like a public facing figure, in my opinion, you need like your public Instagram or social media, and then your locked down private one for like people that you actually know in your real life to like have this. But I feel like even if they did have a Finsta, some like, you know, loser in their circle would leak this anyway, but yeah, it feels like she had just received like a no, and so she was just so fed up. She was so upset that she took to the internet and she just lashed out to rant and to connect with other people who may be going through the same thing, because this is not something that's only affecting Catelynn and Tyler. At the end of the day, there are millions of adoptive parents who are grieving in the same way, who are in similar situations, so like, yeah, like I get that it wasn't the best choice for her to go on this rant, but at the same time, I think that things like this help you connect with other people, And then Tyler's response I thought was absolutely perfect. He defended Catelynn while at the same time explaining the level of grief that they're going through. When he said that thing, like, death is like final, like, but with this, you're always like wondering like this, that, and the other. Like that was like deep, like I really, really felt for them in that moment. And I am sad for them that they do not get these visits annually with CARLY the way that they were supposed to. And I do wonder, I know Tyler said not to speculate, but I do wonder what could be the reason for this, at the end of the day, maybe Brandon and Teresa, because he says, oh, like it's nothing we did, this, that, or the other. Like maybe Brandon and Teresa are telling you that to be nice, because sometimes we say things to placate people, right? Maybe there are certain things that they are weary of. For example, on the show, there has been times where Catelynn said that Brandon and Teresa were upset that Kate and Ty keep on bringing CARLY up on the show. And they don't want that. They don't want them to be recapping these visits. So I feel like that's ultimately what it is, because remember, what was Tyler's response to that? It was, oh, well, if sharing my experience with the audience stops me from ever seeing CARLY, so be it. Like, I feel like that might have been something, that like contributed to this as well. Like that it's always like heavily featured on the show. But at the same time, from their perspective and like the show's perspective, I get why these things are featured and discussed on the show, because this was the start of their story. This is such a unique story. There are no other, main cast adoption stories on Teen Mom Next Chapter, Family Reunion, or anything like that. And like they are going through grief. They are going through these things. And I think it's unfair, to be honest with you, that this was used as a storyline at the beginning with like, the behest of Brandon and Teresa because they needed a child to adopt. And now that they've got this child, they're like, oh, well, actually, we don't want you to talk about this child anymore, even though this was like essentially your entire story on the show, you know? Like, why can't they talk about how the visit went, how they're feeling and everything like that? Like, if that's something that's cathartic to them and if that's something that helps other adoptive parents, like, where's the problem so long as they're not showing photos of CARLY? I feel like Catelynn and Tyler have done a wonderful job so far of respecting, you know, their wishes to not show photos of CARLY. And so I feel like, you know, it's complicated. I feel like they should be allowed to share their feelings about everything. I think they should be able to. You know, they're connecting with a lot of people. Anyway, you guys, it's all so sad. It really, really is. I feel their pain. I feel their grief, even though I know I can't imagine the magnitude of it. But like, they've done a wonderful job of expressing themselves and how, you know, difficult this has been. And like I said at the top of the episode, I do feel like some of the responses that they've been getting have been rather harsh. You know, it kind of feels like people are saying, well, you guys are not allowed to grieve at all, you know, and I feel like that's unfair. Like, you know, when you're going through something like this or something that's just so like enraging, you know, sometimes like you act in certain ways. Sometimes you just go and speak without like, you know, thinking. You go publish about it on the internet, this, that, or the other. Like, you're ranting to these people. They've been famous since they were teenagers. So to them, like, you know, this Instagram page with millions of followers is kind of like, you know, you or I's private Instagram pages with like, I don't know, 50 followers or 100 followers or something like that. Like, they're not realizing the magnitude of their reach or their following, because it has pretty much always been there. It's always been there for sure, like their entire adult life. You know what I mean? So it's difficult. I feel for them, and I hope they can find a certain equilibrium in this relationship with Brandon and Teresa and CARLY at a certain point. Listen, it's hard. It really, really is. I can't imagine. I really cannot even fathom what they're going through. But like they said, it doesn't seem like they're going to see CARLY before CARLY's 16. CARLY's going to be 16, I believe, in January. And I don't know. Listen, at the end of the day, when CARLY's 18, I feel like this is when they're really going to see, like, was it Brandon and Teresa stopping me from seeing CARLY? Or was it just CARLY who didn't want to see me? You know what I mean? Because she will have the freedom, and she knows who these people are, I'm very sure. So if she wants to, she could reach out to them. Here's the other thing, though. CARLY's going to be 16, right? And CARLY knows who Catelynn and Tyler are. So is CARLY not going to be on social media to be communicating with these people on her own? Correct me if I'm wrong, but is she not going to be on social media to be like, you know, following these people? I don't know. I'm curious about that, because aren't these other teen mom kids on social media? I know Isaac's on social media. I know Chelsea has spoken about Aubrey being on social media, and these are Teen Mom 2 kids. And CARLY's from the older generation, Teen Mom OG. So would she not, or, you know, would she not be on social media? Like, you know, this is what I'm thinking. Like, she has a certain level of autonomy right now as a teenager, and it's only going to get, you know, bigger, for lack of a better word. She's only going to have more autonomy, you know, when she turns 18 as an adult. So I feel like, you know, we're going to see, like, did she actually want to contact these people? Did she really, you know what I mean? Or was it just like her parents who were being the bad guys and saying, oh, well, you know, it's our fault. It's our fault. We're not going to, you know, be flexible, because Catelynn and Tyler are offering to go towards them and they're saying no. Is it just because they don't want Catelynn and Tyler to see CARLY, or is it because CARLY doesn't want to see Catelynn and Tyler? You know? And I feel nervous for them, you know, when we find out the answer to these questions. And I also wonder how you guys feel. Do you think that CARLY is on social media? Do you think she follows them? Very interesting, eh? Very, very interesting. Let's keep on top of this story. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I definitely will be providing updates as it goes along. Again, Catelynn, Tyler, I feel really bad for you for what you're going through. And I hope that they find a certain level of peace with this entire situation eventually. That's all for now, you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.